This is part 3 of the chapter 7 lecture notes, and I'm just looking at, it seems like number 9 was the question that we were on. What would you expect to happen to a resting skeletal muscle if the sarcolemma suddenly became very permeable to calcium ions? And what that would mean is that calcium would be rushing into the muscle fiber. And the more calcium, the more troponin is moved out of the way, so the tropomyosin will uncover the active sites. Another way of saying that is the more calcium ions that you have in the area of the actin and myosin filaments, the more muscle contractions you're going to have. So the muscles would be contracting, more often, more rapidly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to skip some sections that you can read about on your own. I do want to explain the differences between the fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. Here we go. Okay, I want to make sure you understand the difference between the slow twitch or slow muscle fibers and then the fast twitch or fast muscle fibers. Okay, so when we talk about muscle performance, we measure that in the amount of force produced, or force and tension are the same thing when you're reading, the amount of force produced by a muscle or muscle group. And we also measure muscle performance with based on endurance, the amount of time a particular activity can be performed. So, for example, bodybuilders we're doing are going to be using more of their muscles' ability to generate force, and marathon runners are going to be using their muscles' ability to have endurance. Okay, so and if we just say running, okay, so marathon running is endurance. Takes a lot of endurance, and sprinting takes more force from your leg muscles and your hip muscles. So 2 factors determine performance. Number 1 is the type of fibers in the muscle, and we have fast and slow twitch, and we have some that are in between, but we're just going to talk about them in general, the fast twitch fibers and the slow twitch fibers. And then also your physical conditioning or training. So fast twitch fibers reach peak tension very quickly. And we also call these, let me get the pointer back, we call these type 2 muscle fibers. Type 2 muscle fibers, just like Roman numeral 2. And type 1 are the slow twitch muscle fibers. So they reach peak tension very quickly. Most of the muscle fibers in the body are fast twitch. They're large in diameter. They have large glycogen reserves. And glycogen, remember, is what animal cells store glucose. Instead of starch, we store glucose as glycogen. So the more glycogen reserves we have, the more of that glycogen that can be broken down by our muscles and our liver cells into glucose and give us more glucose in our blood, or more, which will lead to more energy. Fast twitch muscle fibers have relatively few mitochondria for aerobic respiration, whereas slow twitch fibers have lots of them. So they rely on glycolysis, which is anaerobic and does not produce as much ATP. And so these muscle fibers fatigue rapidly, and they also produce lactic acid as a byproduct because they undergo lactic acid fermentation. So that's going to lead to fatigue, and it's going to lead to a burn in your muscles whenever you work out. So, or when you work them. They are densely packed with myofibrils, so their contractions are very, very powerful. So we're looking at fast twitch fibers as the type 2 muscle fibers, and they're the very, very powerful ones. If we talk about them in terms of something that a lot of us eat, which is chicken or turkey, those birds, if you've ever seen them try to fly, they have to have very powerful breast muscles, flying muscles, because they can't really fly very well. So the little bit of flying they do is in short bursts. So when we talk about the white meat or the breast meat, those are fast twitch muscle fibers. They're for power. And then slow muscle fibers are the type 1. We call them type 1 muscle fibers. And they're going to take a longer time to reach peak tension. They have a lot more mitochondria because they're specialized for aerobic respiration. The oxygen supply is greater to these muscles because they have more capillaries. They have more myoglobin, which is a molecule that stores oxygen. And then there's a lot more mitochondria to use that oxygen so they can keep going a lot longer than the fast twitch fibers. This is going to be the dark meat of the chicken. Excuse me. So different skeletal muscles have different percentages of fast and slow fibers. If they're white muscles, or the like the white meat of the chicken, they're dominated by fast fibers. They appear pale or white. The red muscles are dominated by slow fibers and appear darker or reddish because of all the blood vessels and myoglobin. And most human muscle is a mixture of fiber types. Okay, the only other thing I'm going to skip down, and the only other thing that I'm going to do is go over the muscle figures for you, because you have to do a lab. Some of you may have already done it, but I want to say the names of the muscle figures because that will be in one of your lab practicals coming up. So we do have, just like the skeleton, we have axial muscles and appendicular muscles. And this is the anterior view of the skeletal muscles, and I'm just going to start on the left. The axial muscles that are shown here are the muscles around the temporalis bone, is just called the temporalis. The muscles around the frontal bone or frontal region are called the frontalis. So there's frontalis at the forehead, temporalis on the sides of your head, and then there's the sternocleidomastoid, which is my favorite muscle because I just like saying it. But it has 3 connections. It connects up here to the mastoid process in the temporalis bone, and then it connects down to the sternum, and then it connects to the clavicle. So that's the sternocleidomastoid in the neck. And then moving down, we have the rectus abdominis muscles. Some people call them the six-pack muscles. And then we have the external obliques. When we do sit-ups, we're working the rectus abdominis, and when we do the side sit-ups, we're working those obliques. The linea alba is just a line of, alba means white. It literally means white line, and it's just a line of connective tissue down the middle of those abdominal muscles. The flexor retinaculum is just a band of connective tissue around the wrist that connects to the flexor muscles of the forearm. The iliotibial tract is also a connective tissue here. And then here's the patella, which is a bone, the tibia, which is a bone. So the only muscles on the left side are the temporalis, frontalis, sternocleidomastoid, rectus abdominis, and external oblique. Now, the appendicular muscles that are shown labeled on the right side, I think I just said right, and I meant it was right side of the body. The left side of the body are the appendicular muscles, and the ones that we call the traps are the trapezius muscles. The deltoid would be the shoulder muscles, or the shoulder. the pectoralis major and the pectoralis minor, but they're only shown here as the pectoralis major because they are superficial muscles. We're only looking at superficial muscles, not the ones that are deeper in the body. So we have the chest muscles, or the pecs, are the pectoralis major. You can see a little bit of that back muscle, which is very large, but we'll see more of it in the posterior view. It's called the latissimus dorsi. You can also see the serratus anterior muscles, and they're named because they look serrated, like a serrated knife, like a steak knife. Biceps brachii, that means there's two of them, and they're in the brachial region, biceps brachii, and they allow you to flex at your elbow. Triceps brachii are in the back, the posterior, and they allow you to extend your arm. The brachialis, you can see here and here, the brachialis. The pronator teres helps you to do the action of pronation, and it's right here. The brachioradialis is here, kind of causes a bulge in your forearm on the side of your thumb. The extensor carpi radialis extends your at your wrist. It's one of your extensors. The palmaris longus, flexor carpi radialis, is one that helps you to flex your wrist. Flexor digitorum superficialis, another flexor. Flexor carpi ulnaris. Gluteus medius, which is one of your glute muscles. You see the gluteus maximus in the posterior view. Tensor fascia latae. Iliopsoas, pectineus, adductor longus, allows you to pull your leg back into your body. If you've lifted it out to the side, when you pull it back in, that's the adductor longus that's doing that. It's called adduction. Gracilis, this one is called the sartorius. It kind of crosses over from the knee to the hip. The rectus femoris, which is part of your quadriceps. Vastus lateralis on the lateral side, and vastus medialis on the medial side. And those are also part of your quadriceps muscles. And the other one is the vastus intermedius, and that one you can't see. The gastrocnemius is your calf muscles. You see it better in the posterior view. And then the fibularis longus. The tibialis anterior, your shin muscle. The soleus, and the extensor digitorum longus, which extends your toes, extends your digits. Okay, let's look at the posterior view. We have in the back of the skull the occipitalis. A little bit of the sternocleidomastoid is visible, and a little bit of your external obliques. Then we have the trapezius, which you can see is a lot bigger muscle from the posterior view. The deltoid or shoulder muscles. Infraspinatus, the teres minor and major. Teres minor is more superior, and the teres major is inferior to it. And then we have the triceps brachii, which do extension at the elbow. The latissimus dorsi, which you can see is a much larger muscle than it appears from the anterior view. The brachioradialis. The extensor carpi radialis. Flexor carpi ulnaris, extensor digitorum, extensor carpi ulnaris, the gluteus medius and the gluteus maximus, and then the tensor fascia latae, the adductor magnus, the semitendinosus, the semimembranosus, the gracilis, the semitendinosus and semimembranosus, along with the biceps femoris, are the hamstrings. The sartorius, that's a little bit of it there. The plantaris, the gastrocnemius, you can really see here. That's the calf muscles. The soleus kind of help the gastrocnemius. They work together to allow you to stand on your tiptoes. So together they are your calf muscles. So those are the muscles. I just wanted to make sure that I went over those with you. I think you also have to know the muscles of the head.